Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and genders of all identities. Welcome back to the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament Fighter Sword Finals between 4th seed DJDarkwingD and 6th seed JohnTheBranch. I am Laoria, and I am joined in the booth today by Martini. Diesel, how are you this evening?
Doing great. Looking forward to an exciting match tonight.
We are also joined with greycorvid on tracking, Jere, Dudecia on restreaming. We are hyped for this match. It is round 1 of the Fighter Sword bracket, and it's set to be a great one. We have, from what I am seeing, a standard open start decided today. So Diesel, would you like to explain what our viewers might see with that?
Sure. So with the standard opening, we're going to be seeing both of the viewers starting in Uncle's house. He'll be walking out, and then they will be going through the escape sequence, rescuing Princess Zelda before they get out into the world. One of the notable things about standard is that you are guaranteed to get a weapon from Uncle, so it should be exciting to see what weapon he gives our racers today.
Absolutely, and Darkwing giving us an early map check. From what I had seen, it looked like red pendant on Eastern Palace and blue crystals on Desert and Hera. You mentioned Uncle giving us an item. Do you have a particular favorite?
I like to see the bow early on, just because a lot of times that gives you access into Eastern Palace, but as long as it's not bombs, I'm happy.
Fair enough. And you know what? We are not going to have a bomb start today. We got a bow.
Nice, just like I like it. And getting a lamp right there in the sewers, that's exciting. Again, leading to that Eastern Palace play early on, perhaps?
Absolutely. And, DJ, with the knowledge that it's a red pendant, might be, not really wanting to go there immediately, but he has the kit for it. And with the knowledge that we have so far, even though it's a pendant, it very well may hold something. So as both of our runners are making their way through escape, let's talk about their sprites a little bit, just for funsies. DJDarkwingD looks like he is playing the Carl Sagan 42 sprite, which basically is Yoshi with accessories, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah, no, one of my favorite things about the game is that they have so many different sprites to choose from, so I always find the choice of sprite to be interesting, but nice that they both kind of have a Mario-themed sprite to look at tonight.
Absolutely, and I don't know how much we'll get to really see of it, but JohnTheBranch playing Princess Peach, her bunny sprite is actually the Shadow Queen from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. I'm not certain what the Carl Sagan bunny sprite is, but maybe we'll find out today.
Yeah, I hope so. I actually didn't know that about the Peach sprite. That I hope we get to see that before the end of the race.
It's a really cute little Easter egg, as we are finding bombs in the boomerang chest, so we will be able to check the back of Escape without having to spend a lot of time to actually farm. That'll be, our runners will be very happy to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's always a relief when you find bombs in Escape, so that you don't have to, check your prize packs or kill a lot of ropes in the sewers. So that's got to be a load off their minds. Hopefully they can find a few more before getting into Kakariko, although that 3-pack should get them through the first several checks there at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And if worst comes to absolute worst, they could always save a bomb and, bomb the tiny little shack in the southwest of CAC to refill as needed, or maybe they'll be blessed with money and just, be able to buy a refill.
Very true, very true. I find it interesting how close they are. I mean, I know that they're both running the same escape and it's pretty standard, but they are, seems like just within a few pixels or frames of each other. Very close race so far.
Yeah, I agree. This is a very evenly set of execution. Words are really hard, and I apologize, but they are, making very similar movements. They're very, very comfortable with how they need to maneuver through escape. DJ falling behind just slightly by picking up that heart from the pot. But you know what? It's so early. This is not a make or break difference at this point.
Yeah, just a second or two is not going to change anything at this point in the race. But if he knows his abilities and his limits, I would say that might be smart for him to pick that up before going any further. We don't want to take a death in the back of escape.
No, absolutely not. And sometimes these rats and these ropes can be incredibly trolly with their movement patterns. The rope room in particular can have such a varying degree of RNG that anything can happen.
Both our runners moving through that really quickly, really well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not surprised. This is the finals. We get our vanilla Dark Cross key. There are 3 items for sure here in the back as well as in Sanctuary. Also, I am behind on chat, but Mocha Jones, friend to DJ Darkwing, letting us know that Carl Sagan in a box is the bunny sprite.
And DJ Darkwing pulls ahead a little bit by a few seconds as he goes in to check the back of escape. We'll see what these 3 chests are. And we get the hook shot. That's a great find to have early on.
Absolutely. Not only that, we do get a little bit of extra bomb refill, but that hook shot is definitely the big player here. Wow, you love to see it really early. I'm a little jealous of this seed already.
So as I see our runners coming out of Sanctuary, one of the questions I always ask myself is whether or not they're going to go check Lumberjack. I know some people like to go check it. Others like to put it off until maybe later when they have the boots. What do you think, Laoria? Do you think they're going to go check what's on the ledge?
With having a lamp already, it wouldn't surprise me to see at least one of them go ahead and check it just in case. Lamp plus hookshot could definitely mean Aga early because that hookshot could be your West Dark World access. I know I personally am a fan of checking it if for no other reason than just having the information, but, it could be something they decide, not today, not right now.
And it looks like that's what they're going with. Both of our runners heading into the Lost Woods. We'll see if we get a tree pull and a couple of item checks in here, and hopefully they find something good.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we do have a 5 rupee tree pull. I am terrible with knowing the tiers. And we have a shovel in the mushroom spot. So fetch quest, but wrong fetch quest.
And that's not a bad one to have this early on before going into Kakariko, because that means they'll be able to route in that shovel after they check race game, as long as they remember. Sometimes I've seen some people with some muscle memory save and quit after race game. Hopefully they'll remember and go give it a look.
Yeah, it is nice to get that really, really early, as we also get our ice rod in the thieves drop down. So no ice rod hunt today, but this is Rando. There will be some kind of hunt later. And DJ Darkwing giving us an idea of what that stun prize is, and it is a big 20, so that's really, really nice to be able to farm up for, Kiki, for Zora, even Bottle Vendor.
Yeah, this early on, the seed hasn't given us a whole lot of rupees yet, so knowing that stun prize is going to be a big help. And just as I say that, we find 300 rupees and 50 more rupees in Blind Hut, so plenty of money there.
And the boots. So we are going to have a nice, fast beginning here. Where would you like, after, Shovel, South Shore, where would you like to see our runners heading to?
Even though it's a pendant, I think I'd head over to Eastern, just because you've got Sarhashla in his closet, and then you got several items in Eastern Palace, and the seed seems to be pointing you that direction with the items needed for Eastern. So that would be probably what I would do, depending on if we find anything useful before then.
Like perhaps a sword. A sword is nice, but, not necessarily progression that would point you towards anywhere else.
Still a good find early on.
Especially with those boots, because now you don't have to worry about, bonking into an enemy of all things. You can just dash on past it.
We'll take a look and see if the bottle vendor has anything for us, and he gives us a heart container today.
That's another thing that's nice to see really early. You don't want to have to stay at Green Mail 3 hearts for a very long time in Rando, especially since things can get a little wacky. And, now we're sitting at 5, and I believe that was Sank Heart as well. So as our guys are running through the last little bit of CAC, and then I'm certain they'll be checking library and race game here shortly, I'd like to shout out our hosts for this tournament, the Go Mode podcast, full of wonderful information. They just released their new episode last night on a variety of different topics, if I'm being honest with you. We had... I'm having to scroll and remind myself, but I know there was an interview with one of our mentors, Walther. There was an interview with Kern, who just completed a blindfolded rando run.
Yeah, I caught the end of Kern's rando run. That was great, and Walther is a really good mentor. He was my mentor for a lot of this tournament, so I'm excited I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited to listen to that episode. Meanwhile, our runners have found the Power Glove in the library, so that might change their routing a little bit, as this now opens up the mountain for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mountain plus Hookshot is a really, really compelling place to go. You hope to find at least Hammer or Mirror before you go. That way you can go ahead and complete Hera while you're up there. But, there's so many checks opened up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Eastern happen quite a bit later now.
Fortunately, both of our runners remembered to check that shovel location in the grove, and they're on their way over to the dam now. Looks like not much inside the dam, but when we drain the water, we'll see if we've got anything interesting hiding in the depths.
And we did not get to see a hook clip from JohnTheBranch. I'm curious to see if DJ will give it a try. It looks like not today, but that is a-okay. I know that some folks will opt to take the hook shot and push the center block to clip in and get that chest, and then just slide over to the side, so they only have to come inside the dam one time.
Yeah, especially when you're new, that hook clip can be a little bit tricky, just because you have to make sure that you use it right as the block starts to move in order to open the chest. But you're right, it does save an extra entrance into the dam.
Absolutely, it is a tricky one. Let's see what we have in Mini Moldrum Cave today. We have just some love and some money right so far. Doesn't seem like we're gonna have much of anything. A bottle with blue goo is nice, though.
Yeah, gotta love having a blue potion for free. That's great.
The question now is, when will our runners return to CAC to check out Sick Kid?
And it looks like they've both opted to skip Agina, and John, at least, is heading over to give us a peek inside Ice Rod Cave. We'll see if DJ follows him.
And you know what? I don't blame either of our runners. With the boots, you know, getting over here is decently quick. I know quite a few people will wait until they have the flute to come back over this way, especially if they don't have Moon Pearl or Zora Money, which our runners do have Zora Money. But, you know, I don't disagree with this.
Yeah, like you were saying, with the boots and especially with Zora Money, I think this is a good play. And we see John over on the right setting up a water walk, and DJ looks like he might be doing the same thing. That'll help them get into the Zora domain a little bit quicker as they can walk or dash across the lake, or potentially even save it to see if there's an item on the Zora ledge that they might need.
Yeah, I like DJ's decision here. What I hope that is done here, because I see John is trying to store it while getting a fake flipper. What I hope happens is skipping Hobo for now, which it looks like he's doing, skip Hobo and use that water walk to get into Waterfall Fairy, because unfortunately with fake flipper, you're not going to be able to get into Waterfall Fairy.
And with John storing that water walk, you could see he was being very careful to get that fake flipper on the first try. That's because if you don't get that fake flipper on your first attempt, you will lose the stored water walk. So he has to make sure that he gets that the first attempt.
And you know, getting rewarded with 2 heart containers is not an unpleasant thing. Now, we will see if Hobo has anything, which it looks like it's just a bloomerang, so both of our runners will have done a water check that the other one will more than likely be isolating for the time being.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that affects their routing later on, as they each have a check they have to go back and double check later on that the other one didn't skip. Since they both did it and they each have one, hopefully it doesn't cause too much of a difference in this very close race so far.
Yeah, and it seems like John is opting to not go into the Zora area at all, not even for King Zora himself, which we know is not a bad idea because, you know, Zora doesn't really have anything. We're getting our first major bit of divergence here as John is making his way towards Sahasrara. DJ is going to check those bonk rocks and more than likely make his way up the mountain.
Yeah, I think I like John's play here. Well, especially now that we see he's getting rewarded with the Moon Pearl. But like you were saying earlier, it's nice to go up the mountain with either a mirror or a hammer, and I feel like doing these other checks are going to give him a few more locations to look for one of those items before he heads up to Death Mountain. But we'll see if it pays off.
Yeah, I'd say already there's a bit of payoff with that Moon Pearl, as DJ on his side is showing us that Lumberjack Ledge is just a little piece of love. You know, Amerith in chat, who is, I believe, you know, quite close with John, mentioning, you know, she doesn't quite hate this play from John. You know, the seed was hinting extremely early on that Eastern was potentially something with that bow, with that lamp. You know, I think that this divergence is going to make a big difference one way or the other.
Both our runners getting a little bit more health. Piece of heart for DJ from the old man, and John finding a heart container in Eastern. We'll see if the mountain or if Eastern Palace has anything else to show us.
A nice early big key in Eastern. You like to see it, but what you hope to find next is the items that you are still missing at the next 2. That way you don't have to gamble gamble going to the vanilla big key room or skipping it.
DJ not finding anything on the mountain quite yet. A heart container on Speck Rock that he can't quite reach just yet, and just some arrows inside the cave nearby.
Yeah, unfortunately, John having a little bit of trickiness trying to get the quick Stalfos from there, but he was still able to clean it up really nice and quickly, and finding a map immediately after, so that does mean that potentially there is an item in the vanilla big key chest, or nope, at this point, there is an item in the vanilla big key chest and one on Armos.
DJ's checking our Paradox Cave for us. The bottom 2 checks didn't have a whole lot, but we'll see if one of the 5 chests in the top room pays out more dividends.
Yeah, with as early as we had mountain access, I would be very shocked if we didn't find something up here. A book is very potentially something.
Yeah, absolutely. That could open up Desert Palace for us and see there might be a couple of items in there, and we do have a fire source, so we will be able to complete it.
A really nicely done skip here on JohnTheBranch's side to skip having to kill all those enemies, just kind of damage boosting from that Popo into the anti-fairies and picking up the block. Really well done.
And DJ did a great job with his bomb jump getting across in the Paradox Cave. And now he's going into Spike Cave and is going to take a look and see if there's anything in there before he heads down to either Eastern Palace or Desert. We'll see which he picks.
Yeah, what's very, very clear here is, some folks who are not exactly, the kindest, and I'm going to just straight up say that, would maybe scoff at some of our fighter sword players. But, watching these guys racing, you see exactly why they are in the finals. You can see the growth that they have made in this tournament. They're not just, just fighter sword players. These are guys who could compete with some of the top dogs, and it's really, really exciting to see.
I've got to agree. It's been a big pleasure to watch a lot of the matches in this tournament because there is so much talent. There is not that big of a gap between the different brackets, and you can really tell it when you see some of this play, like John just nailing a speed Armos strat and taking him out very quickly. They're both playing a top game today.
And being rewarded with the flippers for it as well. So, Eastern is absolutely a play. The chance of Swamp Palace being a required crystal is high. So we'll have to see if DJ does eventually make his way over to Eastern. If he reads the logic and, where the items were early on, hopefully he'll be pushed that way.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, although I can't fault him for heading to Desert Palace right now. It is a crystal, and it is full clearable, and with those boots, he can get all the items, even if it's on the torch today. So we'll see if there's anything inside that dungeon that will help offer him a little bit more progression.
And, there may be something in there that will potentially push him back into the eastern direction, whether that be a hammer. It could be a mirror to be able to get there after running through pod. There are many things that could kind of push you back that direction. The thing that is going to hurt the most is the fact that Eastern is just a red pendant.
Yeah, I can see the possibility where if he has other options, putting Eastern off until later and not being able to get those flippers. So hopefully he's able to make that play and find those flippers when he needs them.
And it looks like JohnTheBranch is going to follow in DJ's footsteps a little bit here, going up the mountain. That is a great choice as DJ finds the mitts on the torch. When he makes his way to Sahasrara for that Moon Pearl, that will be his Dark World access.
That is really exciting for them to find those mitts so early on. That is going to really open up the world once he does get that Moon Pearl. And at that point, they're going to have some interesting choices to make about where they're going to go with the seed. They will, of course, have to go to the Dark World through the portal above Kakariko. But there are a couple different directions they can go after that. And I think it's going to give them some good options. And we'll hopefully see some good routing from both of these runners.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a single play so far that I have disagreed with. You know, going up the mountain makes sense. Going to Eastern makes sense. Going to Desert makes sense. You know, and that's what's kind of great about this.
Yeah, you always like when you see diverging paths that both have merit, both make a lot of sense to them. You can see the logic for both runners, and sometimes it's just a little bit of luck that you need in order to make the galaxy brain play and know where you're supposed to be going.
So I didn't think about this a minute ago when I was discussing DJ getting pushed towards Eastern, but he's going to have to make his way over there anyway because of that Moon Pearl. Part of me is a little bit sad to see him not go and get that red boomerang off of the ledge, but also I 100% understand. It's literally just a boomerang.
Yeah, my one worry is that when he goes to Sahashla's closet and finds that Moon Pearl, that he'll realize he has his Dark World access, and knowing that Eastern is a pendant, he might just opt to skip it. And that, as we know, will be a mistake since he might need those flippers before the end of the seed.
Yeah, absolutely. And having already done a bunch of the water checks as well, you know, he may feel like those flippers are not really needed for a while, but we won't really know until we see what Swamp Palace is. We already can tell that Ice Palace is green pendant thanks to John talking to Sahasrara, but we don't know if those flippers are hard required just yet or not.
We'll also want to take a look and see. Well, it looks like Sir Hashla already told us that Ice Palace is a pendant, so we know they're not logically required for that dungeon. Or rather, they are logically required for the dungeon, but the dungeon is a pendant, which means we won't need to finish it. Maybe we won't need to finish it for this seed.
DJ showing off some, to a degree, NMG strats for Lanmo. He did attempt to get some of those arrow hits. These arrow hits are really hard on Landmolus, and Fighter Sword is hard on it as well. So he is really rocking this fight considering what he's kitted out with right now.
Yeah, Landmo can really be a tricky one when you're on low percent items, but he's, like you said, doing a great job of it, giving us a really good show. And John has picked up his book, so I would assume we're going to see him head over to Desert Palace shortly, if not right now.
And I'm certain he will be really excited to see those mitts as well. What I'll be curious about is if he decides to potentially use not just, you know, sword and bow strats, but maybe potentially some ice rod strats to fight Landmolus.
Yeah, the Ice Rod is a great weapon for Landmo. A little bit tricky compared to, say, the Fire Rod. I believe they do the same damage, but because of the Ice Rod's speed and how it doesn't move at a consistent speed across the screen, timing those shots can be a little bit more of a challenge. But if you can pull it off, you can really speed up that fight quite a bit. So we'll see what he does.
As DJ is making his way towards the eastern area, he will be getting that Moon Pearl. The biggest question is, will DJ save and quit after getting the Moon Pearl? Or will he go ahead and go into Eastern Palace? Right now, we're assuming the answer is definitely go into Eastern Palace, but until we see the Dark World crystals and pendants, we won't know.
Yeah, and this is a really huge decision. This could be a big turning point in the seed. What does he do once he gets that Moon Pearl? It will have consequences, I feel.
And he is deciding to save and quit. So DJ will be entering the Dark World. Hopefully we'll get a quick map check and we'll know how much this will hurt him. Oh, and I did not consider this. DJ's going to actually go over to King's Tomb first with those mitts and his boots. This is actually really, really smart to do. I don't think a lot of people will honestly remember to do this before running to Kakariko.
Yeah, I really like that play. Since he doesn't have the mirror yet, that means that he wouldn't be able to combine it with the graveyard ledge check at this point. So getting it out of the way now was a really good idea.
John opting to not pick up that red ring either. Feels sad, but again, it's just a ring. He's going to be making his way to Landmolus, and we'll see if he decides to use those fun Ice Rod strats or if he will Fire Sword and arrow it up as well.
Well, and I mean, John already has the best boomerang, so you don't need to pick up something suboptimal when you already have the best.
And with the map check, we see Turtle Rock and Swamp are the 5/6 crystals. Pod is the blue pendant, which is going to make it even less likely that DJ is going to head that direction. So flippers are hard required, which means Armos is hard required.
So we'll see how long it takes for DJ Darkwing to get back over to Eastern. Hopefully it doesn't take him too long, but this could be a big deciding factor in the race.
Yeah, this could be huge. It's really going to be a matter of, does Swamp also have progression, which will lock DJ into going to Pod Eastern as he finds Ether in the brewery.
And John is busting out that Ice Rod for Landmo, doing a pretty good job of it, showing us a good fight there. Really nailing some of those bow shots.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, NMG strats on Landmolus they're not easy. Bow and fighter sword, it's not exactly the ideal way to kill Landmo, especially if you're very accustomed to Rando and possibly having, fire rod or anything better than a fighter sword. It's really exciting to see both of our runners pull off really great Landmo fights.
DJ showing us our first checks in Thieves Town. First getting just a piece of heart, and then we'll see what the other 3 chests are in the front of this dungeon. Now we know that one of them has to have the big key in order to give us access to the back of the dungeon, but the other 3 could potentially all hold items or just hold dungeon items. We'll see what we get.
Yeah, unfortunately, already having found the small key in the very first chest, at this point, DJ's hoping that he can find the 4 items before having to, hoping to find all 4 items in Thieves Town without having to go to the big chest. I apologize for my words being all tumbled up there.
Yeah, without having that hammer, he's not going to be able to check the big chest, but it could still be a compass or a map, something that he doesn't necessarily need. Hopefully that's the case so that he doesn't leave one of the items behind in this dungeon. That's always a pain when you have to do that, wondering if it was something important or if it was just some rupees. It's nice to full clear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting a little bullied by a Patrick Star there. They are not exactly nice creatures, but getting through, not having too many issues after getting bodied a bit. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, over on the right, John is working in one of those water checks that he left early on and heading up to Zora's domain. Now that he has the flippers, he'll be able to check all the items here, get some life out of the waterfall, and discover for himself that Zora doesn't really have anything useful today, although I do believe it will fill him up to max capacity on his bombs.
Yeah, and it's always nice to not have to worry about bomb situations at all. I think just finding those 2 heart containers side by side are just really nice for the early game as well.
No, definitely agree with that. Heart containers early on really make it a little bit more comfortable for the rest of the seed, so that's good. DJ showing some good knowledge of where to find life in those pots. He was able to get a heart out of one of the pots in that conveyor belt room.
Yeah, it's it's nice to be able to know exactly where, if you're in a pinch, where can you find a refill to help you out. Little things like that, like also knowing if you have powder, that under that top left skull there's a bunny beam that you can poof and fairy. Just little locations like that can make your run just feel a little bit safer. Good knowledge to have.
I 100% agree, especially when, in a randomizer, all the items in the chests are randomized. You never know when you're going to find safeties, extra heart containers, things like that. But the items under the pots and the skulls, those don't change in the randomizer. So if you know where those hearts are, where those things that refill your life are, that can really save you out. DJ's now doing the blind fight. We'll see how he does fighting this boss. So far, so good. Not following the typical blind script, but he seems to be doing pretty well anyways.
Yeah, pulling out a blue potion as a just in case, I really don't disagree with that at all. Go ahead and use it if you're even thinking you're in danger of losing your life during blind. You want any safety you could potentially have, because blind can be a bit of a troll, especially if you do die. He doesn't start on script again unless you go rescue the maiden again.
And that gives him his second crystal as John heads into the village of outcasts, hopefully following DJ, I would imagine, into Thieves Town shortly to get his second crystal as well.
And unfortunately, I did not count items like I should have, but I do believe that there was a dungeon item in the compass. Chat saying yes, compass was in the big chest, so Thieves Town is clear.
That's got to be a big relief on the runner's mind.
Yeah, you never want to have to isolate areas if you can avoid them, and isolating in as far of a big chest as Thieves Town big chest is, it's one that's kind of gross to get back to if you absolutely have to.
John picked up his ether medallion as DJ got another bottle from the dig game, and it looks like he might be coming back up. Yep, he looks like he's starting the smith chain, bringing that smith along with him as he does some more of these Dark World checks before saving and quitting to bring him back to the blacksmith shop in the light world.
DJ is the Aladdin to Jeremiah's Jasmine. He will show Jeremiah the world. But as DJ is doing the world tour with Jeremiah, John is going to be making his way through Thieves Town. Just to kind of remind folks what is going on here, we are in the finals of the Fighter Sword bracket. 4th seed DJDarkwingD versus 6th seed JohnTheBranch. They are the top of the Fighter Sword bracket right now, and could easily be playing amongst any other bracket stage players at this point. But in this finals match, they are doing a standard start. We had a bow on Uncle and making our way through.
Yeah, and it's important to mention with the finals week, this is game 1 of a series of 3. So whoever wins tonight will be looking to get a second win in order to clinch the championship. And DJ just gave us a quick look into Hype Cave. We found a shield. We found the Cave of Cane of Burna, which is a nice safety to have. And now he's heading back to Kakariko in order to turn in the blacksmith.
Yeah, Smith and Chain is always one that's kind of a little bit weird to decide when do you route this in. Especially if you're mirrorless, it can feel a little bit of a chore to have to bring the Smith back to CAC, especially if you find progression on the, southern walkthrough.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to do the smith chain after you have like the mirror and the hammer and the powder, so you can route in a lot of the other checks that are nearby, like magic bat and hammer pegs. But you never know when there's going to be progression on that smith, even without the mirror and the hammer. Didn't have it in this case, looks like. But with randomizer, that can happen in any seed.
and you had mentioned that this was a best of 3. I do want to go ahead and shout out that tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock will be the game 2 of this series. And the second finisher, I don't like to say loser of this race, but the second finisher will choose the mode for that race.
And they do have a couple of options to choose from for that mode. They can either go with standard, like we're playing today. They can do an open. They can do casual, or they can do an ambrosia seed. So those are the 4 options. We'll be seeing one of those 4 for game number 2 from these 2 racers.
And now that I actually look at the schedule, it looks like maybe the 2 had decided together, just came to an agreement that they would be doing casual for the second race. I do not know if that will change or not, but as of right now, it's looking like casual mode.
All right, DJ is going and giving us our first look in the Skull Woods dungeon. He's gone to the middle of the dungeon and is going to show us that big key chest check. Hopefully find something good in there. There are 2 items in this dungeon, so we'll be looking for one of those 2. Then over on the right side, we have JohnTheBranch going into his blind fight. We'll see how he handles blind. DJ did have to use his blue potion. We'll see if John has to do the same.
A really great phase 1 so far. Phase 2 looking pretty good. I do believe it'll be slightly off script at this point, but still really nicely done so far. Did not need to use that blue potion at all.
A well-executed blind fight for JohnTheBranch.
Let's see, I believe in the back chest of Skullwoods, we had just found a small key. DJ picking up the first item of Skullwoods, which is a heart piece, and I'm certain he'll be making his loop around here before potentially leaving, and we'll have to see where he goes from there.
Yeah, after making that loop, he is going to have to leave since he can't do the back of the dungeon without that fire rod, unless he happens to find it here in Skullwoods, which that's always a possibility.
Come on, vanilla fire rod. Nope, we are, I believe, officially fire locked at this point, unless he picked up the big key and I missed it. We have big key and big key map and 1 item remaining. It looks like John is going to opt to go ahead and grab Jeremiah as well. So we do have still a little bit of kind of following in footsteps here. What will be fun to see is if John decides to go to Skullwoods as well.
Yeah, this feels like a very close race. Even though John seems to be trailing a lot of the locations that DJ's already been to, we know that John has already cleared out Eastern. And I think that difference really makes up the gap and brings this to be a tight race between these 2 runners.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, you know, there's got to be progression here very, very soon. You know, there's still the potential that there is something up on Dark Death Mountain, since we have the mitts now. We also have this purple chest. But I think our next big progression at this point is going to more than likely be hammer or fire rod.
And if it is hammer, I'm going to root for it being up on Dark Death Mountain, since that would also let them check into Spike Cave at the same time. But we'll see.
Yeah, and with that Cane of Burn, it would be really, really nice to go ahead and just route that in, get it done. And we
DJ
finds the flute! Now that's exciting. Not exactly the progression I was thinking, but that does open up the mire area.
We'll get to take a look and see what medallion we need to open up Misery Mire today. Since that is a crystal, we know we are going to need that. And it also opens up the Mire Shed, which could potentially have, mirror or hammer or fire rod or one of those items that we are looking for.
Yeah, and at this point also, knowing that Mire and Turtle Rock are both crystals, having the information regarding the medallions required is just going to be very useful information to have.
DJ is activating his flute over on the left, and I gotta say, I really like seeing him hold that sword out. One of the nice tricks here is if you hold your sword out while you're activating the flute, you can then use that flute to call your bird right away after it's activated. If you don't do that, if you don't hold out your sword, you do have to wait for a few seconds before the flute will work. So very well done. Saved him a couple of seconds by doing that.
I actually did not know that that was a thing. I had never heard that before. So today I learned. And you know, that's kind of the great thing about this tournament. We're in the finals. You know, this is the last week of the tournament, and I'm still learning things.
Absolutely. Before this tournament started, I didn't know how to do a couple of the glitches that I've picked up in the last several weeks, like the spooky mire is something I learned during this tournament. And DJ Darkwing just picked up the Cane of Samaria, so that's going to be useful both for Turtle Rock and for Mire. Can't do Mire right now, unfortunately, as he found out that required medallion is Quake. But like you were saying, that's good knowledge to have now that we know that that's going to be an item to keep an eye out for.
See, unfortunately, you know, the cane is an excellent item and it is a required item, but it is not at this particular point a progression item. We still can't get into Turtle Rock without that hammer and without potentially another medallion. So, you know, Dark Death Mountain at this point has to be the play. I do not actually remember. We see John going towards Catfish. I don't believe DJ checked this because he didn't have a way across and John was able to jump and swim across.
Yeah, he didn't have the hammer or the flipper, so these are new checks for us. I'll bet that John's going to show us Catfish, and then he might give us a peek at what's on the pyramid.
And this could be huge too. If this is hammer, you know, that's another, you know, big reason why DJ needs to make his way to Eastern as fast as possible. Not the hammer, but powder.
Which, depending on what we have on Magic Bat, could possibly lead to the hammer. I would like to see that personally, just because that's going to lock DJ out of Turtle Rock a little bit longer and force him to go to Eastern that much sooner.
Yeah, at this point, we are rooting for DJ to find something to push him to Eastern. We want him to get back there. We're going to get a check at Turtle Rock's medallion, and it looks like it is also Quake.
So now we get to see what is inside that hookshot cave as DJ is going to give us those checks, and John on the other side will be looking at the pyramid.
So far, not a lot enough. Well, just kidding. Never mind. There's our fire rod. So I have a feeling, you know, hopefully DJ will go ahead and check Spike Cave really quick. But I have a feeling that Moth is hiding something in her lair.
Well, he won't be able to do Spiral Cave without that hammer yet, but he could possibly get that when he goes to fight Mothula. We'll see.
And that would be a derp for me. My mistake. I did not see, but I do not believe John found anything on the pyramid ledge, so he is making his way independent pod.
Pyramid Ledge had the bug net, which is certainly nice if you want to get some fairies in your bottles, but not a required item.
And I like his decision to use the Cane of Brian, or I'm sorry, Cane of Berna, to kind of skip through those enemies there. You know, if you get hit while leading Kiki's gonna abandon you.
You know, I have never done that before, but that is a great move, especially when you're on fighter sword. Some of those Dark World enemies are tough to get past with just a fighter sword. And like you said, you don't want to get hit by them. So using that protection, really good idea. And DJ unsurprisingly heading to Skull Woods.
Yeah, and this makes sense. You know, you find that progression, you're going to rush straight there. You know, and as soon as he finds Hammer and Quake, he has Turtle Rock access as well. Was mentioning before, John on his side found a small key in the first chest. So even though we had bow, we are not bow locked, though he is opting to go ahead and do the right side of pod. You know, chat pointing out that John is doing all the pendants. You know, he is, but at this point, it's working out for him. You know, finding flippers on Armos Knights, it's very likely that Pendant Pod has something. You know, this could be a French vanilla hammer.
Yeah, with 5 items in pod, there's a good chance that there could be something in here that will really be required or at least very helpful.
See DJ doing a great job trying to manage his magic and regain as much as he possibly can so that he has as much as possible for Moth. That's, you know, a really great decision, especially on Fighter Sword. It can be really rough.
Yeah, Fighter Sword Moth with no hammer, that is really going to be tough. So using that fire rod as much as possible, it's going to be... Oh no, and he got grabbed by one of those hands. Going back to the beginning of that section of the dungeon, he's going to have to work his way back up there, and he's now only at about half his magic bar. So hopefully he's able to make it back and get some magic back by then.
Yeah, on the bright side, it does look like, you know, he's getting a couple of lucky drops from these berries, but, you know, that's really unfortunate to see. You know, you make it all the way back there, you're ready to go, you know, pick up the key from the Gibdo, and then you get yoinked by the Wallmaster. It just, you hate to see that.
John, meanwhile, was able to get the big key to Palace of Darkness in its vanilla location. A little bit of a gamble there, since it could have been a small key, but fortunately for him, it was the big key. So if there's anything in that big chest or on Helmasaur himself, that will really have paid out.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if John was counting his front of pod items really, really heavily. You know, with the front of pod, you're guaranteed to have at least 4 small keys. If you find 2 items, you know that the rest are going to be small keys. But, you know, you could have up to 6 small keys in the front.
DJ doing a pretty good job over on Mothula. Little tricky with all the spikes around here. So in case anyone who's watching may not know, the game is coded so that when Mothula hits a spike, she actually doesn't take any damage from those spikes. If she did, the fight would be over very quickly and you wouldn't have to do anything. So the trick when you're fighting Mothula is you have to make sure that you hit her in a way that the recoil from your strike does not knock her into a spike. Otherwise, that damage that you make with your hit is negated. So DJ having a little bit of trouble, but doing an okay job staying alive, starting to get a little bit low on health. We'll see if he's able to pull it out.
Oh, and unfortunately getting just nicked by a spike after using his potions. You know, Fighter Sword Moth is not a nice place to have to be. You know, even a Master Sword makes a huge difference in that fight. And so I feel the pain for DJ right now.
Yeah, even on Master Sword, I struggle with Mothula, so that is a tough fight to win.
Finding the big key here in the back, it's possible that he may decide to flute back that direction and check that big chest. If it has the map, then the item is on Moth. If it has, you know, the second item, that can be something that would potentially be very helpful to DJ in that fight.
Yep, and waiting, he's pulling out and coming back after he has a little bit more help, I think, which I can't fault him for that at all. I think that's probably the right play just because of how tough that fight is.
Yeah, and because we were so focused on the moth fight, we actually missed it. JohnTheBranch found the mirror in pod. So he will be able to not only get his Dark Death Mountain checks, but he's going to also be able to go ahead and mirror and do Hera as well.
That is a great find for JohnTheBranch. That opens up a lot of checks in the world, as well as, like you pointed out, some of these other checks on Dark Death Mountain. Working them in with Hera is going to be really helpful. And it even opens up the first item in Swamp Palace, although going there without the hammer is always a risky proposition.
So at this point, we are a Quake and a Hammer from no mode, where we know where everything is, but the runners aren't quite in go mode yet. Where would you like to see some of these items?
Well, it depends on how sadistic I'm feeling today. I always like Hammer in Swamp Palace, like I mentioned. That's always a nasty surprise. Unless I'm running it, then I don't want it there.
Right, of course. As viewers, we're just bred to not want nasty seeds for ourselves, but if we can give them to people we're watching, then yes, it's always entertaining. DJ, unfortunately finding the map in the big chest, so that means Moth does have the second item in Skull Woods.
And John taking an unfortunate death. Those Lionels really hit hard on top of Dark Death Mountain.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see him go ahead and go back to the mountain and just go up the normal way through, via Spectacle Rock. Hera's a crystal. You want to go ahead and get it done. And it looks like that's exactly what he's planning to do.
And that makes sense. I mean, earlier we saw on Spectacle Rock is another heart container. I mean, he's doing pretty well on health, but it's never a bad idea to get a little bit more.
And big thanks to a Marathon chat keeping us posted on, again, things we may have missed. There was an item remaining on Helmasaur as well. As DJ enters the moth fight again, we get a check on Ether Tablet, and I just missed the text, so I will catch it on the restream as John enters Hera.
The tablet was just a little piece of love, so just a heart container, or a pizza heart on the tablet.
Excellent. So nothing they'll need anytime soon, as we see a compass in the basement cage. That's not anything that we're going to need at all. So we will have a key of some sort here in the map chest. And it is the big key, so it looks like John is going to be setting up a Hera pot for us as DJ takes down Moth and gets rewarded with a bit of armor.
Oh, would have been nice to have had that before the Moth fight, but we'll take it now anyway. John doing a great job executing that Hera pot glitch. That's a little bit of a tricky one since you have to be pixel perfect twice in a row, and that second one you only have as long as it takes for the bomb to explode to line it up. But John pulled it off great and is now way high up the tower and is going to check the big chest. Hopefully we get one or two of the items here in Tower of Hera.
Yeah, what we don't want to see is a small key in the basement. We do get our second sword finally, so we are on Master Sword now, and that's got to feel a lot better. I think at this point, though, unless the key can be locked in the basement, I think Moldorm has a small key, and there's an item in the basement.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Moldorm drops for us, but it is really great having that Master Sword, because otherwise we were going to be looking at a Fighter Sword Moldorm, which is always a little bit of a challenge. This one will be a little bit simpler.
Yeah, just 3 Master Sword spins to the tail. We see DJ going into Eastern, and we know this is exactly the right play. He needs to go and get his flippers. This is excellent.
Yeah, that's an exciting thing for us to see, to make sure that he doesn't fall any further behind. And I like that he's going there first. I mean, a lot of people try to route in Pod first, but since Pod has the mirror, DJ doesn't know that after doing Pod, he would have been able to mirror into Eastern. So coming here first makes a lot of sense for him.
Yeah, we've seen a few slashes from DJ after something, potentially frustrating happens. So I wouldn't be surprised if after seeing that mirror, we get a couple of those frustration slashes.
And I missed what was on Moldorm, but it looks like John was not going back in to check the basement. So I'm guessing Moldorm had an item.
It was a 10 arrow drop, so that means that the key is locked in the basement. Let's see, I believe next the big thing for John is to go ahead and do the purple chest to be able to get his flute and head to the mire area.
I think you're right. Before he does that, it looks like he's going to go up and do the Skull Woods. Now, he'll have a little bit easier time with Mothula than DJ did, since he does have the Master Sword. But we'll take a look and see how he fares against the Moth.
Yeah, this is true. At this point, it's looking like we very well may have an Ice Palace hammer.
Yes, we very easily could have that Ice Palace hammer. That is always so tricky going into Ice Palace. A lot of these dungeons you don't want to go into without the hammer, like Swamp Palace or Ice Palace, just because you can do part of the dungeon without it, which means it can be there, but a lot of the dungeon is locked behind that hammer, so you always feel a little reluctant to go and dive into ice with no hammer.
Yeah, absolutely. John opting to, instead of mirroring quickly to the mirror, switching to the mirror. I can't words very well, apparently. But instead of getting the mirror out and mirroring, he decided to just let the Wallmaster grab him and give him a quick port back to the entrance there.
Well, depending on how the timing works out, sometimes that can be a lot faster.
This is true. As we see our guys kind of following in each other's footsteps, DJ will be getting his flippers very soon. John will be getting his blue mail. As we're at that point, I would like to go ahead and shout out our volunteer staff for tonight's restream. Our restreamer is Jere Dudecia. Our tracker today is greycorvid. I am Laoria, and I am joined today by Diesel Martini, who is rocking his comms right now.
Well, thanks. I happen to feel the feeling's mutual.
It's easy to comm with somebody who is rocking it as well, and I'm very, very happy to be comming with you today.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. And now we see DJ going into his Armos fight. Looks like he's going to go for the same speed strat that John used earlier. So far executing it really well and pulls it off flawlessly to get those flippers. I'll bet he's happy to see those. Although at the same time, he might be feeling a little bit nervous knowing that they were available pretty early on in the seed, wondering maybe if John went to go get those.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Knowing that right now Swamp is still locked, he might be weighing on his mind, Ice Palace is definitely still a possibility. But at this point, he knows, okay, I have that. I need to go into Pod next. There's really not much else. I wouldn't be surprised if after getting the mirror, we see him kind of either trail John for a bit, or he may decide, let's go to Ice Palace.
DJ is heading into the village of Outcasts. I'm not 100% sure where is this his route over to Pod, maybe?
Without the hammer, it will have to be. He'll have to jump across and swim to be able to get to that side. He could have gone the south way to get there. I don't think there's one way faster than the other, but if you go through the north, you don't have to run all the way through Village of Outcasts, so this may be a little bit faster.
That is a good point. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, he's heading over to check Catfish before going into Pod, which I like that play a lot. It's Catfish is one of those checks that's always out of the way and usually isn't very convenient. But if you're heading through the North Dark World to get to Pod, that's about as close to being in your route as you're ever going to get. So going to look at Catfish now, great call by DJ, I feel.
And I've got to shout out here, we have a sword on Ped. Now, it's very likely that we will not get that sword, but, you know, just knowing that that's there, kind of hilarious and fun. And if our runners don't find a gold sword, don't find a tempered sword, they very well may go ahead and just pick that up in order to make their Ganon fight just a little bit easier, as well as their GT climb.
Yeah, I would be a little surprised seeing anyone pull the sword from the pedestal, but you're right, since that means there is only one other sword in the prize pool somewhere in the world. And if they don't find it, we may be seeing a Master Sword Ganon.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I have not watched either of our runners enough times to know their comfort level with Master Sword Ganon, but you know what, they're finalists in the Fighter Sword bracket. I would not be surprised to see them be able to successfully pull off Master Sword Ganon, Master Sword Silverless.
DJ now finding that bug net on the pyramid that John found earlier. Again, could be helpful getting a fairy or two in a bottle.
Yeah, it is just a nice little safety item to be able to have in your possession, as DJ is going to make his way to the maze to grab Kiki and go get his mirror from Pod. Now, the big question is, where does John go next? It looks like he is going to go ahead and do a graveyard ledge check, which I do not believe DJ checked on his way towards Pot. Well, he couldn't have. He didn't have the mirror. So this will be our first chance to see this. This could also be, Quake or Hammer.
Yeah, because of that late mirror, we have a couple of spread out overworld checks that we have not seen yet, such as the Graveyard Ledge. We also have the cave south of the Grove, or Cave 45 as it's sometimes called, and we could very easily find something in there. We also have the Bombos tablet that could have something now that we've got the mirror. Unfortunately, we don't find Quake or the Hammer in the Graveyard Ledge today, just another bottle, although having another bottle is never a bad thing. I'll never say no to that.
No, as many containers to hold safeties as possible, please. At this point, I would not be surprised if we see John go ahead and pick up the purple chest and do the K45 check, turn in the purple chest, and do Bombo's tablet right in one nice little route.
Yeah, that would be a good way to combine those checks, and he'll be happy that he did once he sees that he gets that flute from the purple chest. And hopefully K45 or Bombo's tablet has our progression, which would be good for him as well.
Something else that I just realized is completely in logic here is Magic Bat, but it would require mirroring and losing that Dark World portal to do so. And I do not blame John for skipping it at this moment. You've got 2 more checks down this way that will require Dark World access versus the 1 Magic Bat check that, usually is hammer locked and you're looking for a hammer. Although John is still looking for Flute, Quake, and Kane as well.
Yeah, it's always a pain to kind of orphan that 1 overworld check at Magic Bat or anywhere else, but I got to agree, 3 checks down south versus the 1 in Magic Bat, that's the play. And we see that it is the play because in K45, he just picked up his hammer.
So at this point, we are only a Quake away from no mode. John going to show us a little bit of a cool little maneuver. You do not have to drag the purple chest all the way with you. If you mirror in a close-ish, it's not, you know, super close, but if you mirror in a close-ish vicinity to Gary here, it will still turn in the purple chest.
And now I've learned something new tonight as well. I did not know about that, but that is a slick little trick. I'll be using that in my upcoming runs for sure.
The biggest thing is to make sure that you don't mirror before Gary after you leave the purple chest, because otherwise the purple chest will despawn and you will have to go back to Village of Outcasts to pick it up.
Now I'm going to be a little bit curious to see what John does here. He has the flute now. It's not activated yet, but he does have everything that he needs for Swamp Palace. And so it looks like he's going to forego activating that flute to go to Swamp Palace, which I think is the right call for now. I mean, Swamp has got 6 items in it, could very easily have that Quake that we know that he's going to be needing. So hopefully he finds that, and then we'll be able to activate his flute and wrap up the seed pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is 100%, I think, the right play to do. You're right here by it. You've got everything you need for it. Just go in, finish the crystal. You can always go ahead and run to Sanctuary afterwards. At this point here, being in a Quake hunt, you know, we have our hammer now. Where do you expect to see Quake?
You know, I'm thinking it might be here in Swamp Palace, although it could always be over in Ice. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that John is here in Swamp Palace. He does not know that Quake is what he needs since he hasn't activated that flute. He hasn't seen the Meyer medallion yet, and I can't remember if he checked Turtle Rock or not, so he might know for that one. But that could play an interesting part, like where he might not realize that that's the medallion that he needs to finish things off.
Yeah, this is a very good point. It'll be kind of one of those, you know, situations where he may decide to, depending on what else he finds here, he may decide to skip left side swamp and say, you know what, I'm just going to risk it. I feel like, you know, I have a lot of things. But he also is missing Cane. So we know that that is in Meyer's shed, which he'll be getting really shortly. But, you know, it's one of those gambles. You're 2 items away from go mode. Do you skip left side swamp or do you just go for it?
Yeah, and with him still needing that cane and only having one of the 3 medallions and not knowing what the Meyer medallion is, I would not be surprised at all to see a left side swamp play from John, just to hopefully pick up some more of those items that he's looking for.
We are getting a mushroom turning check over on DJ's side, and it looks like it is just a big 20 today, so not really any kind of helpful.
And there John goes over to the left. He's gone ahead and flipped those pegs down, and he'll be grabbing that flood key. Now, it's important to know that you do need to grab this key before you flood. Otherwise, you have to leave the dungeon and come back, unless you happen to know how to do diver down. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if John knows how to do that setup, but the more common setup that you see is with the Cane of Samaria, which he doesn't have. There is a setup that you can do with bombs, which he would be able to pull off here if he knows it, but that one is a little, sometimes a little bit trickier for people to pick up. So I'm not surprised at all to see him routing it this way. It's still very quick, and we'll get to check out the 2 chests on the left side of Swamp Palace.
As DJ is going ahead to check Hobo real quickly, just getting his bloomerang, and will be making his way out. I wonder if we're going to see him go into Ice Palace here.
And if he does go in there, we got to be hoping that the Quake medallion is in there for him, because we already know that where Hammer is, and it's not in ice. So hopefully he gets rewarded for his efforts, because it does look like he's heading in the Ice Palace direction.
Now, the really unfortunate thing is if Quake happens to be on the green pendant or on Cold Stare, or potentially in the hammer-locked chest of ice, that's going to mean that this could potentially be a double dip for DJ. We know that he needs to go to K45, but unfortunately, this could be anything at this point.
Yeah, with him having already turned in that purple chest, K45 is kind of a little bit out of the way right now. Not that close to some of the other checks, so unfortunately it may be a while before he gets back over in that direction.
On JohnTheBranch's side, getting rewarded with left side swamp with 2 heart containers, one vanilla, or I'm sorry, not vanilla, but one on the left side swamp itself, and then one in the big key, which was vanilla. It does look like DJ's going to go ahead and, oh, well, never mind. I was thinking he was going to hit the switch and potentially do Icebreaker, but it looks like he's going to opt to go through and do the Ice Palace bomb jump instead.
Well, and especially without the hammer, that devalues the Icebreaker slightly, because that second item is not going to be available without that hammer. And he's trying to pull off the fast strat for this Stalfos room. Doesn't quite get it, but still takes care of them pretty quickly. And as JohnTheBranch on the right side is making his way back to fight Argus. Argus.
Yes, Argus. And finding a red mail in the waterfall chest too. So he is nice and protected there. The only thing that he may or may not want more is a mirror shield. It's not necessary. It does help with laser bridge on Turtle Rock, but with the boots and with the Cane of Berna, you have enough safeties to be able to get through laser bridge if you're not comfortable with laser skips.
Now DJ having to be a little careful here, running low on health as he is trying to do that bomb jump, forced to burn one of his blue potions, unfortunately. This bomb jump, though, is really critical. It's a little bit tricky because you do have to make sure you're on the correct vertical pixel, but making it means that it cuts the time down for Ice Palace significantly.
And I think I unfortunately noticed what is tricking DJ up a little bit. Because the fighter sword is not as thick as the other swords, it does kind of mess up that pixel alignment after the bomb placement. So he does get it though, and he is making his way through.
And a very fast Pengator room from DJ. That looked great.
Absolutely. A great fight from John against Argus. It's one that can be a little bit, not iffy per se, but it can just take a little bit of time if you have anything less than a tempered sword, which, both of our runners do at this point. But, made decent work of it.
Unfortunately, not finding the Quake medallion, though, which could potentially be good news for DJ if he's about to find it here in Ice Palace.
Yeah, we're going to get a flute activation here on JohnTheBranch's side. DJ is going to fall down but come back up pretty quickly because, we are still hammer locked. We are currently in Quake Hunt mode for those of you just joining us. The hammer is in K45. The cane is in Mireshed. So it is just a matter of where is that Quake medallion.
Yeah, John's going to be picking up that Cane of Samaria pretty quickly, and then all he'll be looking for after that is Quake. DJ still looking for the hammer in K45. Hopefully he's able to get over there soon, but if he is able to find Quake in Ice Palace, that could help his chances and bring this race a little bit closer.
Now I'm curious where John is heading to. Oh, he's going to check hammer pegs and magic bat. That makes sense. I had completely forgotten that these were not clearable the first time we really came around here.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to get these 2 checks since he had to come over here to activate his flute. Good routing on his part, and he is rewarded by getting the silver arrows. That will make the Ganon fight easier even if he does end up on Master Sword.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Master Sword Silvers can feel a little awkward because you get bounced after releasing the spin, but it's still way better than Master Sword Silverless as far as the amount of time it takes. 24 spins versus, 4 spins plus 4 arrow shots anytime.
Now, DJ mirrored out of Ice Palace because I thought he'd reached all the checks he could get, but he went back inside and he proves to be smarter than I am, realizing that he can now do the icebreaker and get 1 more check in that room. Now, I think there might have been a little bit of a slip when he went back and hit those crystal pegs. I don't think he needs to do that since I think this is the only check he can reach. Oh, wait, nope, there's 1 more check he can reach over on this side of the dungeon. So he'll get a couple more chests to look at. Hopefully find that Quake medallion. We'll have to wait and see.
Unfortunately, he won't be able to find the Quake medallion because at 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 15 seconds, JohnTheBranch pulled the Quake medallion from Magic Bat. So he is in go mode. Well, he will be in go mode very shortly because he's going to get his gain.
Yes. Oh, that is a great find for John. That Quake medallion is really kind of the elusive item of this seed, but he was able to grab it. Unfortunately, DJ will not be finding that here. Hopefully he picks that up soon so that he can finish up some of the dungeons that he still needs to do. But we're going to get to see John do Misery Mire here.
All right, now officially 1:19:06 in go mode. All right, so at this point, DJ's going to be making his way up to Tower of Hera with that mirror, maybe just going up to Tower of Hera. He does need to make his way over to Cave 45, grab his hammer, and, if he decides to, he really should be grabbing his hammer before doing Magic Bat, because if he does Magic Bat first, he loses his portal. Oof.
Yeah, it's kind of a rough situation to be in, but I can't fault him for heading up to Tower of Hera since he knows it's a crystal and he has what he needs to clear it. He's going to want to finish that dungeon out, hoping that he's going to find the hammer or Quake in there. Unfortunately, we know that he won't.
Yeah, unfortunately not. It's really unfortunate because, DJ is quite a bit behind, but you know what? Anything can still happen. This is Rando. GT Big Key could be in Tile Room. JohnTheBranch, last locates that, and DJ might do Living on a Prayer strats and do Hope Room into Tile Room. I don't know. Crazier things have happened.
DJ setting up his own hook shot clip into the pot to get up to the top of the tower.
And this is interesting to me. He has the boots, and yet he's doing the bootsless setup. So it may just be a comfort level thing where he just feels more comfortable doing the bootsless setup.
Yeah, it might seem strange feeling more comfortable with the harder strat, but I know a lot of people who will learn that bootsless setup first just because it's more common for them to be able to pull that off. So maybe that's the case here where he's practiced that bootsless setup and hasn't practiced it with the boots as much.
Also, because we were watching that, we actually missed JohnTheBranch had Big Key on the bridge. So we have a God Mire in go mode. So that feels good. Using silver arrows to set up that spooky action glitch, or to hopefully can keep it set up.
Now that's interesting to see. Most people, when they have the boots, as John does, will use some boots dust to preserve the spooky action in this dungeon. But silver arrows certainly do work as well.
And he did manage to get it. Something I was concerned about too, because I know that I've done it. I've seen plenty of great runners unfortunately do it. Seeing him skip the spike and not accidentally hit that switch since he didn't need to.
Yeah, good job paying attention to what he'd done and where he'd gotten to in the dungeon, since he had never hit that crystal switch in the room with the jelly and the anti-fairy. He didn't need to hit it again in that spike room in the dark. Now he goes into fighting Vitreous, which fortunately for him, he's got the silver arrows and doing very well, making quick work of those eyeballs. And on DJ's side, having a great fight against Moldorm.
Yeah, we'll have a kind of tiny bit of sync with our crystal holding. Really great fights for both of our gentlemen. John's going to be rushing his way up to Turtle Rock as DJ is still on his hunt for Hammer and Quake. And with our runners kind of moving along here, and hopefully, I know John is probably hoping to find a tempered sword somewhere in Turtle Rock along the way, just because, again, tempered silvers is going to be a much better Ganon fight than Master Sword silvers. But as they're kind of making their way through here, I want to shout out again our hosts for this tournament, the Go Mode Podcast, who just released a new episode Wednesday night, which I believe was last night. I'm totally mixed up on my days now. Yeah, last night. Definitely check it out if you are a beginner runner, an intermediate runner, an advanced runner. It is a wealth of information and has some pretty funny hosts, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, they have a great chemistry on the show. Really enjoy listening to that show, not just for some of the tips and things that I've picked up, but it's a great way to get news about what's going on in the Rando community, and they've really put a lot of work into making a solid production.
Yes, and in this week's podcast, they have two guests. They have Walther IV, who is a mentor from the tournament, talking about kind of his experience as a mentor, things that he kind of, passing wisdom to runners, to mentors, and all of that good jazz, as well as a kind of impromptu interview with Kern, who had done his blindfolded run this past week.
I'm really excited to give a listen to the episode. And if you guys have enjoyed watching this race, please give our runners a follow as well. JohnTheBranch and DJDarkwingD. They're putting on a great show for us. So head over to their channels and give them a follow as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a really well-run race. DJ at this point, I'm not going to be surprised if we see him, rushing down towards Cave 45. I imagine at this point there's not many locations he has left. He'll be getting that. The biggest hope then is him going back up to Magic Bat to get his Go Mode Quake.
And he just pulled out his mirror, so I think he's heading to Magic Bat first, which will lose him his portal, but gets him one step closer. Now that might bring him a little bit further away from Cave 45, unfortunately, as that Quake medallion might lead him into heading into those crystal dungeons, Mire and Turtle Rock, looking for Hammer.
Well, the good news is he won't be getting very far as Turtle Rock goes, because the hammer is required to even make the portal. However, he very easily could be running into Mire, and unfortunately, he will not go mode it like JohnTheBranch did. He could be in there actually hunting for the hammer.
John, now in Turtle Rock, he is able to go mode this dungeon. He will still need to make sure he gets enough keys as he goes through, but go moding certainly can speed this up depending on the key layout. He might even be able to skip Laser Bridge in its entirety if he has the keys for it.
Yeah, when you're in go mode, if you do get that big key relatively early, you can steal the pokey key and potentially not have to go through Laser Bridge at all. And Laser Bridge is not always the nicest place to be.
DJ Darkwing is checking Checkerboard Cave. I can't argue with his logic in checking it before going into Mire, but unfortunately, since we know that's not where the hammer is, kind of painful. Hopefully he's able to make it over to Cave 45.
I was hoping, seeing him flute there, that he was going to flute away and go ahead and check Cave 45 or check anywhere else, but unfortunately not the case. Yeah, it's really hard to see, from an outside perspective like this. You know exactly where a runner needs to go, and unfortunately just getting pulled away by all the different items that they're getting, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. And nothing that he's really done wrong on his side. I feel like he's made some smart plays and good choices. We just have the benefit of the knowledge of where that hammer is, knowing that that's not where he needs to be. To answer a question in chat, silvers were in the hammer pegs. So that's where John was able to pick those up because John did have the hammer. DJ Darkwing hasn't been able to make that check yet.
And at this point, because DJ's isolated hammer pegs, it wouldn't surprise me if he decides, after getting that hammer, to just forego it, and that'll put him on Master Sword silverless. All right, DJ getting his big key from the chest there. He is going to check the spike chest. We want him to not stay in Mire. Don't stay in Mire, DJ. Don't do it. Leave. No!
So I think the best thing for him is if he's able to find his 2 items as quickly as possible in here. That would push him towards the boss and getting out, but even if they're right away, these next 2 checks, it's still going to cost him some valuable time.
Yeah, as we see John, getting his key from Laser Bridge, letting it just bump him off at the end there, and he's going to be making his way to Trinex. Gonna pick up that full magic refill before he heads that way, though.
Yeah, that full magic refill is a big boon when you're going into Trinex. Now, I think it'll be interesting to see if he decides to go with the Master Sword for Trinex, or if he's going to try to show us some hammer strats, since it does do the same damage as Tempered Sword.
My concern is you don't have half magic. Now, he does have plenty of blue potions, but without half magic, this fight can be an absolute just monster to try and finish out. But it looks like he is going to try and Master Sword it out.
Well, for a second, it looked like he was going to try and do the hammer, but that is a tricky strat, especially if you haven't practiced it a lot. So switching over to Master Sword, if you're not 100% comfortable with the hammer strats, probably a good move.
Yeah, he is going to go ahead and pop one of those blue potions. Unfortunately, the ice had got off 2 ice shots as well, so that floor is slick, and it's going to be a rough finish on this side. It's, like you had mentioned, this is not an easy fight at all, and that ice is not making it any easier.
But he's able to take down the fire and ice heads, and now he's just onto the snake itself.
Yep, releasing that first spin there, getting a good second spin, and then it's just trying to kind of kite him around, but that ice is really getting in the way. And taking him down, that's really, really well done.
And with that, John now has all 7 of the crystals that he needs to open up Ganon's tower. And that means we're going to be starting our big key guessing game. So there are 22 chests in Ganon's Tower where that big key can be. Go ahead and throw your guess in the chat for which one you think it could be, and maybe you could win some very, very valuable points.
Diesel, where do you like to see the big key?
My favorite spot for the big key is the double fire bar room. So if you're going with the normal route of Hope Room and then heading left, that is chest number 8.
Very nice, very nice. You know, not too far in and not too punishing. I think that's a really, really nice location. I'm not that nice. I like Bob's chest. I like to see our glitchy little friend and then steal the big key from his chest, which would be guess 14 if you do the traditional route of Hope then full left, 18 if you decide to do compass room before.
Well, John's now heading into Hope Room, so we'll see where it is today. Meanwhile, DJ is almost to Vitreous. And unlike John, DJ does not have the benefits of silvers, so he is going to take advantage of some dash strats. Now, he does have an advantage that John did not have in that he was able to pick up a tempered sword here in Mire, which will give him some speed bonuses as he does some of these other boss fights and rooms coming forward.
Yeah, that's definitely something, especially if you've been sitting at Master Sword for a while, that you're going to want to see really nice dash strats. To catch up on where we have been so far with our GT climb here, or I'm sorry, GT hunt, I should say, we had a cape and hope room. Not much, if I recall, in the Dark Magician's room, and it does look like John is going to continue full left.
Ah, and it wasn't in the double fire bar room this time.
That is unfortunate, and I apologize, good sir.
Well, I'll be rooting for Bob's chest now for you.
Makes me feel so good. I would like to reclaim a spot in the top 3 of the leaderboard. As we find a small key in the fire snake room, it does look like DJ is going to go ahead. Hopefully, please make your way to K45. Go there. Go K45. Get your hammer. Go back up to hammer pegs and get your silvers.
I think we might be heading that direction. Things are looking very good for K45 on DJ's side, while JohnTheBranch is opening up the 4 chests in the randomizer room in Ganon's Tower. Still no big key, though.
Yeah, chests 10 through 13, not really ponying up anything. We are just hoping, come on. One more chest. Let it be Bob's as DJ enters go mode 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 31 seconds.
That has got to feel so good for him.
But he will be skipping those flippers. He's going to go mode swamp. He's going to go into TR. He is, still quite a bit behind John at this moment. But again, this is randomizer. There is anything that could happen at this point. You never know. We do get to see Bob in his glitchy form today. We did not get the torch item, which would normally, unfortunately, de-glitchify him. But unfortunately, no check 14 today.
Womp womp. But John making quick work of those Armos Knights on ice. It's so nice to have the silvers when you face that enemy.
And it does look like the key is on right side somewhere, whether it's in compass room or in tile room. I said earlier that if it was in tile room and DJDarkwingD did a living on a prayer strat in doing hope room in a tile room, that it could be huge. I'm You know, that was kind of made in jest, but now I'm thinking.
Well, even if it's not, if it's on right side and he does right side first, I don't remember if there was a key in Hope Room or not to even give him that option, but that could really make up some time if he decides to go that way.
If I recall correctly, it was cape in left chest and small key in the right chest, so this is totally an option.
Well, and with DJ knowing that he is in go mode, he is not going to have to do the left side of swamp, so he'll be able to pick up a little bit of time there.
Chat corrected me real quickly. Thank you, chat. I am wrong, and I apologize. So, no, he would have to do tile room to get a small key. I missed which number it was, unfortunately, but we did find the big key in the compass room. I'm watching the restream so I can get that number for you guys. I believe that is chest 18.
Yeah, I think it was the first chest he opened when he went in there, so that would be number 18.
I am absolutely sure that it is 18. So we are, you know, I mentioned 18 earlier as, you know, Bob's chest, but nope, not the guess I made. And congratulations to our restreamer, the Dude Garcia, for winning the GT Pinky guessing game. And I apologize that I'm laughing so hard because it's kind of become a running joke that the staff wins the GT Pinky guessing game a lot.
JohnTheBranch going into his gauntlet in Ganon's tower while he climbs up there, doing very well so far. He used some ether strats in the red Stalfos room and makes quick work of the those horse guys. Are those the Zyzax? Is that what they're called?
Yes, the blue Zyzax, and then using the fire rod to get through these red ones. I like that ether strat though, and having found half magic up here as well is huge.
Well, half magic, I believe, was the prize for beating Trinex, if I remember correctly.
Even better. Although that's kind of one of those prizes that might make you a little salty that you got after the fact. DJ making quick work of Argus as JohnTheBranch uses silver strats to go ahead and take out land mode 2.
It always feels good when you get a 1 or 2 cycle in Landmo, and he just got him in 2 cycles with those silvers. He's got pretty good accuracy there.
And making his way through some of the more satisfying rooms, the wizard rooms, which with that cane, it's really satisfying to get these kills. Unfortunately, just missed that left one there, but you know, making it through, getting a good quick sword swipe on him, and he's going to be making his way up to torches.
John conserving magic a little bit using the lamp as he lights those 4 torches to get into the next room. He'll probably be picking up that full magic refill in the next room as DJ Darkwing climbs Death Mountain to do his Turtle Rock fight clear.
Yeah, and this was a good call by John. You know, it's possible to do this room with the lamp, but it does feel a little sketchy, particularly that top right torch. He is going to go ahead and check these 2 chests up here, probably looking for a sword because, yeah, that would be nice.
Unfortunately, we know where both the other swords are, and they are not in Ganon's tower, so he will be doing Master Swords Ganon today unless he decides to go hunting.
All right, JohnTheBranch going ahead and taking on Moldorm again. Round 2, he is one Master Sword spin away from finishing off and makes it happen real quick. Let's see if he checks this chest right after here.
Just a red rupee.
So JohnTheBranch will be going into the Ganon fight with Master Sword and Silver Arrows. At this point, it is looking like DJ is going to be going in with Tempered and Silverless. So an interesting setup on both sides. You know, Tempered Silverless, not a big deal. Master Sword Silvers, really not a big deal. It can be a little weird, you know, like I said, that bounce back and then trying to line up for the arrows. But, you know, overall, I gotta feel like our runners probably feel okay as far as Ganon goes.
John initially had a little trouble with the Aghanim fight, but that second round, I think he got a triple on it. It might have been a double, I wasn't quite sure, but did very well after that first round.
Yeah, and absolutely, to kind of quote chat here, Incoherent mentioned the cape helping a lot with Master Sword Ganon, and that cape that they found in Hope Room is really going to be helpful for sure. And even not just on Master Sword, I think that, you know, using cape strats on Tempered as well, especially to try and get the 1-in-1 cycles during phases 1 and 2, it can be really incredibly helpful.
Yeah, combining that with the half magic that they found, that's going to be a really big help on this fight. And John's doing a great job of getting those double spins in when he was in the corner there, and really doing well with this Ganon fight so far.
Yeah, he is getting some really, really good placements to get those doubles. This is, you know, this is a really quite good Master Sword phase 1 here. And it does look like we make it into phase 2 with that fire circle. This can be, you know, this is when you would want to go ahead and just pull out that cape, be safe. You have half magic. I believe he still has a couple potions as well. You know, use those items. You have them, use them.
Getting a little low on health there, taking a little bit of a risk, and actually takes a death to Ganon, so he's going to have to start over from the beginning. This is not an easy fight. Even when you have full equipment, you know, Gold Sword or Tempered Sword, Ganon is not the easiest battle to win, so it looks like he might be taking a little bit of a break to fill up his bottles, possibly visit the potion shop or get a fairy or two.
Yeah, I don't disagree with this. You know, if you try to make it through and you don't have, you know, enough safeties to feel comfortable, go ahead and refill because, you know, having safeties and flying and doing this, it takes time, but dying ends up being longer. So buy your safeties, do what you got to do, and then go ahead and make your way back and finish the fight.
Yeah, and with 4 bottles and lots of money in his pockets, he is going to leave with his purse a little bit lighter after filling all of those up with blue potions, and that will certainly be a big help when he goes to kill the pig.
As DJ is making his way through, he is in Crystal Roller Room. He is going to go ahead and get that compass and make his way to Laser Bridge.
I think he was hoping it would be a key so he wouldn't have to check for one on Laser Bridge, but unfortunately the compass will not open that locked door for him, so he'll be looking for that key on Laser Bridge.
Round 2 Ganon fight on JohnTheBranch's side. He did a really nice phase 1 before. Let's see if he can get it again. You know, sitting at 19 hearts red mail, I didn't even realize he had so many hearts until, you know, really kind of looking at his kit here. You know, it can still be a bit daunting because these Master Sword spins are not exactly nice. You know, it's 12 spins for the first phase, 12 spins for the second phase, and then, you know, the 4 spins for phase 3. Luckily, though, he will only have to do at most 4 spins plus the 4 silver arrows hits for phase 4. Whereas if he didn't have the silver arrows, he'd be looking at 24 spins in phase 4.
Yeah, that can really drag out the fight. So having those silvers are really going to help him. DJ not having those, even with tempered, that will only be 12 spins in phase 4 if he doesn't find those silvers. But that does add a little bit of time to this fight.
John using his first potion to go ahead and get back up to full as he enters phase 3. You know, if there's a time that you have to use it, phase 3 is not a bad time. Meanwhile, on DJ's side, he is getting his fight with Trinex, and with that tempered sword, this is a lot easier of a fight. Takes down those 2 heads with no issue.
And Ganon is not being too trolly with his warps today. John was able to get the first 2 hits off pretty quickly and then a couple of warps. But for the most part, just very quick. Oh, and he almost fell, but was able to save it at the last second as he goes into the last phase of this Ganon fight.
Whew, that gave me chills for a second there because I was like, no, don't fall. But he did manage to save it. He is going ahead and opting to do this. No, okay. I was going to say opting to do silverless strats regardless. But no, he did go ahead and switch to that, to those silver arrows. But it looks like it's kind of going back and forth on which he's deciding to do.
Well, and if he's practiced Master Sword silverless a lot, he might have that timing down to muscle memory, so that could be one reason why he might be hitting Ganon with those silverless spins.
And I don't think I've miscounted, but I believe this will be the last silver arrow hit. The pig is down, and with a racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 41 seconds, JohnTheBranch has won. As soon as he crosses, there we go. There's a little bit of a delay, but we got it, guys. And DJ has decided to, at that point, go ahead and forfeit, but he is still, you know, we should still be celebrating the fact that he did make it to GT before it happened. This was just absolutely a seed. That hammer placement was super trolly. We'll see if we can't get these guys in here for an interview.
Yeah, an excellent run from both of our runners. Congratulations to them both, especially to JohnTheBranch. One thing to point out, DJ will, because he did lose this race, he will be allowed to choose the mode for their rematch, which will be happening tomorrow.
And we are currently joined by JohnTheBranch. John, GG.
GG, liberate Auto Tracker, the revolution of our times.
So, how in general do you feel about that seed?
I feel like I absolutely destroyed that seed. That is the best I have ever played a seed of Link to the Past randomizer. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I could have been completely counter-routing it, but I feel like I could have maybe, in like an ideal perfect world, shaved 5 to 10 minutes off of that seed. It was good.
Yeah, you did a great job on that seed. Well done, well played, sir. Do you have any kind of general thoughts about the seed overall before we get into specifics?
Some very wise people once told me that progression is always in Pendant Pod, so I had that in the back of my mind the whole time. My brain said, no, there's something over in Zora area, so I got to get back there, but I know there's something in Pod, right? It's 5 checks, and they were getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah, dipping into those pendant dungeons was really a big help for you. That was actually one thing that set you apart from DJ early on, is that you did go into Eastern and got those flippers pretty early, whereas he put those checks off until a little bit later. He went up the mountain before you did, found his book, and went straight to Desert. But it seems like to me that kind of the big items for the seed were Quake and Hammer. We were looking for those for quite a while. Any thoughts on the placement of your Go mode items?
They were very trolly. Certainly, this is a seed that 4 weeks ago would have taken me 2:15 or 2.5 hours. No, I think my biggest regret is not practicing Master Sword Silver Ganon enough. I've never practiced. I've never done it before, so that was kind of the challenge for me. I kept trying to do spin strats on Ganon and doing it wrong, doing the damage instead of turning him blue. But no, as far as the placement on hammer and flute, it just felt there was a natural progression towards it. It certainly felt bad that I had to take so many trips back to Kakariko. I definitely, normally it's the mountain. You don't want to go up 5 times, and I felt like I went to Kak at least half a dozen times in this seed. I was super worried about Skull Woods, that would have something, and I was putting it off until I had Fire Rod because it was a crystal. But it turned out most of the decisions I made were pretty good.
Yeah, one of the early decisions that we were discussing, you opted to go into Eastern very, very early, rewarded with those flippers. That was something that DJ had put off for a while. Uh, you know, we were discussing how the early items kind of pointed you in that direction. What were you thinking with that?
I was thinking I always clear Eastern, even if it's a pendant, if it's early game, because, well, assuming there's a third item in there, because it only takes about a minute. You never know your next trip back here. In this case, I didn't have mirror, I didn't have flute for a long time, so you don't know how long it's going to take to get back. So you have to, in my head, I don't know if it's strictly mathematically the right thing to do, but to me, I always just clear that if I don't have flute or mirror yet.
Well, and it certainly worked out for you. And if I remember, you had a very clean Armos Knights fight in Eastern as well. So that looked really, really slick.
Yeah, the gratuitous sequel on ice I didn't do quite as well on, but that was an okay Eastern boss fight.
I'd give yourself a little more credit. Your Ice Armos was not bad. The silvers especially helped. That had to have felt good too. Getting the hammer, and then as you're getting ready to check Magic Bat, you pull the silvers out of hammer pegs. Like, was that kind of a relief moment, or were you kind of just like, well, I haven't practiced Master Sword silvers, as you mentioned?
Oh yeah, if I don't have tempered or silvers, I will not even fall into Ganon. I'll look around over world checks first because I'm just that bad at Ganon fights. So it was a huge sigh of relief for me because I didn't know how well Darkwing knows how to do his silverless master strats. So yeah. I feel like the seed very much went my way. The wind went my way, and I was just at full. This is my final form apparently.
Spent some time in the hyperbolic time chamber. But really, truly, DJ ended up finding a tempered sword in Mire. He got his Quake medallion from the Magic Bat and opted to go to Mire before going to Cave 45. So he ended up clearing Mire looking for the hammer and found a tempered sword there.
Oh gosh, wait, where? Oh yeah, Quake was on Bat, huh? Oh yeah. Jeez, you could have routed that so unluckily and not even made a mistake.
Yeah, I don't think that he necessarily made any big errors in his routing. It just the decisions that he made kept him away from the hammer for a little bit too long. But like Laoria was saying, he did have to full clear Misery Mire, but he was able to go mode Swamp, whereas you full cleared Swamp. So it did balance out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the swamp. Oh, I didn't even have the Cane of Samaria, so yeah, I decided to full clear it. I said even without Diver Down, this is too check dense for me to pass up. It's better to come through here and full clear this than to go into Ice Palace when you're talking bang for your time.
And unfortunately, my friends, we won't be joined by DJ tonight in the interview booth. It is a little bit late time-wise where he's at in the world, so he is going to jump off and get some rest after that seed. But he did let me know that per the rules of the tournament, the second finisher in the first round gets to pick the mode for the second round, and he did let me know that it was going to be open mode. John, how are you feeling about open mode being race 2?
I have not practiced it in 4 weeks, so I don't feel too great about it. But we'll see how I do. I got to remember to pick up that sign.
Pick up that sign, and then are you an Uncle route starter or are you a Sync route?
I am an Uncle router. I always want those bombs if I can get them.
Can't blame you for that. That's a strong strategy there. So this is the finals week. It's the best of 3, and you just won the first race. So going into the second one, even if open may not be your mode of choice, how are you feeling about your chances for taking home the championship for the Fighter Sword bracket?
I think it's been a while since I've sat down and watched Darkwing play a full seed, but last time I watched him, I felt like he was better than me. So if he's been keeping pace with me, honestly, I still think I only have about a 60% chance of taking this now, because I think he's going to beat me about probably 3 out of 5 times. So I think I'm above 50% now, but I'm definitely not taking this for granted at all.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too, I watched the semifinals with DJ, and he lost round 1, but then came back 2-0 for races 2 and 3. I think that you having the mindset of, I can't take this for granted, but I currently like my chances, I think that's a really healthy way to look at it. You don't want to go in cocky, but you want to go in feeling good. You won round 1. That's a big deal. That helps you feel really good. Don't don't diminish your win, but definitely keep looking forward, I think is a really healthy way to look at it.
I like that. Oh, sorry, Diesel.
No, I was just going to say I agree completely with what Laoria said. Now I'm looking at the schedule here, and it looks like you already have your second match scheduled with DJ for tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. Is that correct?
It might be 8 p.m. Eastern. Let me look at the schedule.
I believe Amerith said that there was a potential race that may be added, and so the race might be bumped to 8 p.m. It'll just be something that we will keep track of, and we will let everybody know as soon as we know.
Right. Oh wow, it's not even on the schedule right now. It's being updated. So I guess we'll find out. I'll find out in the next few minutes here.
Well, JTB, any lasting thoughts about this seed?
Most people hate it. I love it. I love these seeds that break down to being nearly linear. Well, I guess it wasn't nearly linear. I just got on the linear track, so maybe I would hate it if I had routed it any differently. So no. Good luck tomorrow to Darkwing. That was a lot of fun. Everyone says good luck, have fun at the beginning of the match, and I try to. Thank you, Laoria and Diesel for tracking. Thanks, Jere, for once again restreaming. I think this is the 4th or 5th match this tournament he's restreamed for me, or with me in it. And thanks to Corvid for tracking.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of did my thank yous for me there, but thanks again also to our hosts, the Go Mode podcast. If you would like to get information specifically maybe about race 2 and its update, feel free to join our Discord, which we will link in chat. It is going to have all the information that you could possibly need for the podcast itself, for the rest of the tournament. I have been Laoria.
And I've been Diesel Martini.
And everybody, we want you to have a wonderful night.